Great expression of it. That's photographically good, but it's fun.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. I know we've lost several people tonight due to the Bruce Springsteen tribute this evening, but I've had several people tell me that they're attending that. But we want to go ahead and get right into the program because we've got a full schedule tonight. So I'm going to turn things over to Sophia to tell us what we have in terms of the program. And then later we have a separate judge who are actually judging our photos this evening. So you want to take it away, Sophia?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jim. Good evening, everyone. We're very excited. We're going to try to do something different tonight. We had a speaker, and we'll be outside the quality. Tonight, we have made the decision. We have we're going to start out with Tom Mills. Tom is going to talk to us about the Savannah area. And we're going to go to Gracine. Gracine is going to cover the beach area, the Hilton Head, and then we're going to finish with Rachel Finney. After their presentations, we have questions, and then we're going to turn it over to Mr. Dunn, who is a professional photographer, and he will judge the competition tonight, and Jim is going to do it when it's time for that. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Tom, and Tom is going to take over and start his presentation.
Okay, you share screen with me?
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen.
Thank you, Sophia. You know, one of the great things about living in Sun City is the fact that we are about a 20-minute car trip from a place that I think is one of the great photographic cities in the United States, that being Savannah, Georgia. You can do pretty much any kind of photography in Savannah. There's really literally something for everyone to shoot there, and I think you can truly say that Savannah is camera ready. There's something for everybody there. So let's talk about taking pictures in Savannah. And a good place to start is how to get around in Savannah. A lot of people think a good way to get to River Street is to park at the convention center and take the ferry across. This is a free ferry ride, and you get a boat ride in addition to going to Savannah. So that's kind of fun. Once you're in Savannah, you know, you can drive into Savannah and park in one of the parking ramps or in the streets. But once you're there, moving around, there are several ways to go. There are several hop-on, hop-off bus systems that you can use, and those work fine. There's a variety of carriages that you can rent. The city maintains the DOT. It's a free bus service that goes around the historic district, and so that's a very convenient way to go. But in my opinion, the best way to get around in Savannah is to walk. It is truly a walking city, and that's the best way to enjoy it and really enjoy what a wonderful city it is, and the pictures that can be taken. One word of caution, however, is that in places, the streets are paved with cobblestones. These are all ballast stones from 18th century ships, and they're a little bit hard to walk on. So if you're tentative at all about walking, stay away from the cobbles there, because they can be a little bit treacherous. So let's start off with River Street. River Street is immediately along the river. I mean, right next to the river, and it's dominated by a stern-wheeler tourist boat called the Georgia Queen, which is parked there. It goes out a couple of times a day, so you can get a good view of the river in the river, and also the shoreline from that boat. The place is loaded with tourists taking selfies. There are lots of buskers and people making things and selling stuff, and there's a lot of activity. There are lots of t-shirt shops. But the real excitement happens if you happen to be there when one of the big container ships goes by. And this, if you haven't ever been there for this is one of the really great experiences in Savannah, because these ships are absolutely massive. They are massive. And it's even the locals stop and wait and watch as these big ships go by. You may not see it every time you go, but when you do see it, you will remember it. The Savannah itself is built on a bluff, and so the river is about 2 stories below the rest of the city, and getting up to the upper level can be a bit of a problem. You can walk up one of the driveways, those are commonly cobblestones, there are sets of stairs. They're called historic stairs, but that's really kind of a warning because they're very steep and kind of treacherous looking. So if you're unsure about walking at all, the best thing to do is get on an elevator. There is an elevator which is right next to the Hyatt Regency Hotel. If you go down River Street to where the River Street goes under the hotel, there's a visitor center there, and right behind is a elevator up to the Bay Street level to get up on the bluff. Now that we're up on the bluff, we can start walking through the historic area, and this is composed mostly of squares. When James Oglethorpe laid out the city in 1733, he envisioned many city squares, and there are about 22 of them in Savannah right now. And these squares are all different. Some have statues in the middle, some have fountains. There's a cannon in one of them, and in gazebos and just plantings. They're all different and all charming in their own way, surrounded by beautiful houses. And this is a good place to sit and just watch the world go by, and lots of things to photograph. Good place for street photography. The carriages go by, and this guy, I guess, he's doing a tour, and his concept of what old Savannah looks like is apparently a pastel seersucker suit and a hat, because you see him pretty often. If you continue walking on Bull Street through the squares, you eventually will come to Forsyth Park. Forsyth Park is a 30-acre urban park, which is well used by tourists. It's loaded with tourists, but the locals use it all the time too. Athletic fields, there is a restaurant on site with a bathroom. There are restaurants around the periphery of the park, but it's one of those places that you just are going to see things. Strange things show up there. This guy was a graduate of the Ringling Circus University and was an expert on the tight wire. He just set one up between two trees and was working out one day in the park. Lots of musicians there playing. Every year, the SCAD has a sidewalk chalk drawing contest. And the SCAD students come out by the hundreds and create absolutely magnificent works of art on the sidewalk, drawing with chalk. And this is not to be missed. The students are all covered with chalk by the end of it, but everybody has a great time, and they just create some unbelievable works. This guy was, I think, probably homeless. He was a nice guy, and he had this cat on his shoulder. I asked him about it. He said the cat's name is Dog, and it's his best friend, always goes with him everywhere. And he was very good with letting kids pet the cat, and the cat was pretty tolerant of it all. So that's fun. It's just a fun place. It's a place to just wait for the unexpected, because it almost always happens. At the north end of Forsyth Park is the fountain. And if Forsyth Park is the crown of Savannah, then this fountain, I think, is the jewel in the crown. This thing dates back to 1858. It was mail order from a New York foundry and then assembled. It's been continuously running ever since. It really is the center of activity. Everybody goes to the fountain and everybody takes pictures at the fountain. So and there's all sorts of things to see. Grover, the Muppet, showed up one day while we were there. This guy was riding around with this dog standing up in a trailer. Lots of weddings there. We saw one in which the men were in kilts and the woman was in a tartan wedding dress. In this case, this couple showed up in the park, and they were getting married, and I took some pictures, and the groom saw me and gave me a nod like it was okay. So I took a lot of pictures. Turns out that they were from Stockholm, Sweden, and had run away to the United States to get married. And so I was able to send the family a disc of about 100 pictures that I took of the wedding, which allowed the family to get a glimpse of what the wedding was like. Forsyth Park is good for street photography. There's a lot of opportunities for this. The City Square area, Ellis Square, close to the downtown area, is a really good place. Lots of places to sit down. and sit and just watch people go by. People doing things, meeting, chatting, and drinking beer, and just a lot of people activity. All sorts of things going on. There are things called, apparently they're called hen parties, where bridal parties get together before the wedding and commonly go to Savannah apparently and do crazy stuff. And you see them with similar hats on, or they're all riding segways, or in this case, they all had on pink dark glasses, and they were really having a great time, and were absolutely thought that me taking their picture was a great idea. There are 3 botanical gardens in Savannah. Armstrong State University campus is in fact an arboretum, and has got many identified labeled tree specimens. And there is a botanical garden on Eisenhower. But I think the one that's my favorite is the Coastal Georgia Botanical Garden at the historic Bamboo Farm. That's its whole name. This is an old agriculture department farm, which has been taken over by the University of Georgia. They maintain it with, it's a formal garden, lots of bamboo there, as you might expect. But there are very large areas of camellias, and in season, daylilies and iris, and just spectacular specimens, especially of the daylilies. And that's a wonderful place if you're a flower photographer, because this is just an amazing sight, all these flowers. Oatland Island Wildlife Center is more a zoo. And they have a lot of kinds of animals, but I saw in the news yesterday that they've just acquired 2 mountain lion cubs. So they're part of the menagerie down there now. And that's kind of an interesting place to go. It's on the road to Tybee Island. Bonaventure Cemetery is a must-see. At this time of year, right now is a good time to go because the azaleas are out. And this place is loaded with azaleas. It's, as far as the eye can see, great big azalea bushes. And even when the azaleas aren't blooming, it's interesting due to it's a very old cemetery with strange things to see. The gravestones are really very strange. There are lots of celebrity graves there, but just strange things. Things like this teddy bear was on a grave. There are lots of little ceramic Georgia bulldogs around, as you might imagine, because it's in Georgia. So this is just a place to see strange things, but in the spring, the azaleas are what really matter. There are 3 Civil War and Revolutionary War forts in Savannah. Fort Pulaski is the largest on the road out to Tybee Island, and it's federally maintained. It's a federal battlefield, so that's lots of rules out there, and that's interesting that the fort is mostly intact, as is Fort McAllister, which is south of Savannah. These were both important in the Civil War. Neither one of them was destroyed by bombardment, so they're both pretty much intact. And interesting to go to. Fort McAllister is just a lovely place to go. My favorite, though, was Old Fort Jackson, which is about a mile from downtown. So this is the one that's easiest to get to. While I was there, this guy was putting on a show which dealt with Confederate soldiers. And in the time I was there, in about a half-hour time, he fired the musket 4 times. And I finally, on the 4th shot, caught the muzzle blast. So this one was, this is my best ever decisive moment photograph, this one. So after firing the musket 4 times, we went out in the yard and he fired a little 6-pound cannon. And as it turned out, it was fired directly at the Georgia Queen tourist boat, which was coming down the river. So that was pretty exciting. The crowd cheered. Then we came back in and he fired this one off. So this is a 24-pounder apparently. So if you're into explosions and cordite smell and stuff like that, Old Fort Jackson is the place for you. And it's fun. Savannah is loaded with interesting architecture. Since the city was surrendered rather than, there was no bombardment when Sherman took it, So that means that many of the buildings that were there at Civil War time are still there. So there is many buildings. There are many buildings that are in good shape and in the historic district especially. And this is a wonderful place to walk through and look at the buildings and lots of opportunities for photography. Jones Street is particularly nice. This is a residential area. It's about 3 blocks long and just wonderful big Georgian architecture is the style, I think. So walking through these areas is very nice. Just a few other things, then I'm done. Wormslow Plantation is south of town. There's a tabby ruin there, and the most amazing thing is this corridor of live oaks leading into it. Once a year there is a reenactment show where people show up and do Revolutionary War era skills and crafts and things like that. The Ships of the Sea Museum has many ship models. This is a figurehead that they got from a sailing ship somewhere along the line. The Basilica of St. John the Baptist is a French Gothic cathedral in the historic district, which is open to the public. They probably would rather you not use flash in there, but this is really good place to go and take pictures. You are welcome there, and it's truly spectacular inside. I really like the Georgia State Railroad Museum too. This is a Civil War era train facility. They fire up their this little yard engine every day, I think. So it runs. They have about 200 yards of track that they pull a passenger car on, so you could get a train ride as part of the price of admission. It's fun to be next to a operating steam engine with the smoke and steam and sulfur smells and stuff. And that's lots of opportunity for photography there. So that kind of is a quick summary of taking pictures in Savannah. And what I'd like to finish with is just a couple of notes on what has worked for me. I've taken a lot of pictures. Kay and I go very frequently to Savannah and take pictures. And this is the sort of thing that's worked for me. Number one, take it slow. Walk and be willing to just sit and wait for things to happen. Don't be rushing from square to square, hoping to catch something ongoing. It's better to sit and wait and let it come to you. Number two, travel light. Don't haul around a big lens. You'll hate it by the time you've gone 2 blocks. And the tripods are no good either. You take a small camera and just something you can carry easily and it doesn't get too heavy. Number three, get close and make contact. Talk to people, see what their story is. I really think you end up with better pictures that way because you have some kind of investment in the person that you wouldn't have if you never spoke to them. Number four, if you take a picture of somebody making music or making something, I generally give them a few dollars. I figure I've kind of hired them as my model so I can give them a little donation. Number five, be an amateur. If you approach people, sometimes I take a picture with somebody and I say, would you like copies? And I think that people commonly think that you're trying to sell them something. So I say, I am an amateur, I'm in a camera club. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but I would like to share this picture if you want it. And I generally give them my business card and tell them if they want the picture to contact me. That way the onus is on them. And I don't hear from them very often, but now and then I do. And finally, enjoy Savannah. Whether you're taking the pictures that you hoped you would get or not, just go and enjoy the city because it's a truly great place. And it's just fun. I love to go there. And as Kay and I say, you go to Savannah with the idea of taking a picture of seeing something different, and you're almost never disappointed. Thank you. Oh yeah, one other thing. I've talked about a lot of things, and Kay has prepared a 3-page handout of things like handout of things like addresses and phone numbers and where, things to see. And this is on the club website in, where is it? Oh, in events, and under something called Things and Places to Photograph in Savannah.
Well, thank you, Tom. That was really good. And I think there's a lot of good opportunities for photography in Savannah. Does anybody have any questions for Tom before we move on?
Tom, did you say St. John Street or or somebody's street, Saint something, some street to go to?
Jones Street.
Jones,
Jones,
like
Jones, Jones Street.
Jones,
That's where the houses are.
Jones, okay. Thank you.
And it's on the handout.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. It's great presentation.
Yeah, Tom, just one suggestion. Down on River Street, there's a restaurant called Joe's Crab House. It's at the far end of River Street.
Yeah.
And you can dine outside there, right on the river. I've done that a number of times, and the ships come so close. I mean, you think you could reach out and touch them.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. I know that somebody was telling me recently that they were at a bar, and when a ship went by, they had a drink special.
Oh, what's the name of that bar, Tom?
I don't know. And if it blows its whistle, maybe the drink is free or something.
Oh, wow.
Any other questions? We'll move on to, I think Racine wanted to speak next. So
Yes,
I'll let you take it over.
okay. Will I be able to share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I will. Okay. This is.
We don't see
completely-
your screen yet, though.
We're
What?
not, we're
You're
not
not
seeing
seeing
it.
it yet?
No,
Okay. Do you see it?
No.
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 See
Okay,
you.
you see me. Well, that's not good. Okay.
Did you stop sharing screen, Tom?
Yeah, did you? Am I?
Yes, because you
a
won't
host?
see anybody if we wouldn't be seeing you, Gracine, if Tom hadn't stopped. So
Okay.
it's up to you. The ball is in your court,
In
You're
mine?
hitting-
In my court or in Tom's?
in your
Yours.
court.
Okay,
So-
Gracine, at the bottom of your screen where you normally go in to type a chat message, there's a button that says share screen.
oh, okay, all right.
That helps.
Well, you can see I'm really professional at this. Oh, there it is. Okay. Hey, that works. Here we are.
Did you? Okay, there we go.
There we
There
go.
we
There we
go. Okay, great. Let me try to get this off here. Thank you. This is completely opposite from what you just saw. And Tom's presentation was absolutely lovely. So we're going to try something completely different now. And one of my favorite places to shoot is Fish Hall Beach on Hilton Head. And there's two reasons mainly for that. And that's, first of all, I love the beach. I always have. And I think there's always something there to shoot. And whether you're looking for scenery or you're looking for birds or whatever, people, there's some of those too, you'll always find something there. The scenery is beautiful and it's usually peaceful and quiet unless you go there in the middle of the summer in the afternoon and maybe it's not so quiet, but it is a pretty place. And it's located on the north end of Hilton Head, for those of you who have never been there, in what is called the Begal community. As you know, Hilton Head is broken down into the Gullah community names that were established so many years ago. Now, getting there is very easy. You take 278 down to Beach City Road. You turn left and you follow that down past the traffic circle and the airport entrance. And then you turn left on Fish Hall Road. Very shortly after you make that turn, you're going to see a sign for Mitchellville Road. And it's just past the doggy daycare center. You turn right on Mitchellville Road, which is a dirt road, but don't be intimidated. It's hard and wide and very well traveled. And you follow that up and around the bend. And once you'll see a sign with the entrance to Fish Hall Beach. You turn right into there. And there's plenty of parking. It's a paved parking lot. And there's even a restroom at the side of the parking lot. So once you're settled in and you park your car and you get your camera out and you take a walk down through these trees onto the beach. And this is the view to the left when you come out of those trees. Take note of these dead trees, because quite often you will see a bird sitting up there, like hawks or even eagles, osprey, things like that. They like to be perched up high so they can see what's going on around them. I prefer to go there early in the morning at low tide. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but the low tide, it is a very popular place for the birds to be feeding. So you get to see a lot of birds and a lot of things to photograph. But also the morning light is really lovely. It gives the birds a lovely glow and you get nice reflections, nice color, and it really works very well when you're taking your pictures. Now, the thing you have to keep in mind about low tide is that it's very low. And I know that sounds strange. And I've been to a lot of beaches. I've never seen a beach that has low tide that is so far. This top picture is high tide. And it's actually about an hour before full high tide. And it come up a little more, probably to where these people are standing. And now look at the picture on the bottom. This is low tide. And you can see how far the water is. Actually, it's an hour before full low tide, but you can see those little tiny people out there. And that's a long walk out there, but it's well worth it. You see all these tide pools and little sandbars and things. You need to wear footwear that stays on your feet, not flip-flops, because that sand will suck your shoes right off your feet. Scuba boots work very well because you're going to be walking through these tide pools and you're not sure what you're stepping on. And then you're into sand and you get down here on the beach. But one thing, in addition to being careful and walking out there with something solid on your feet, you want to pay attention to when the tide is coming back in. Because if you don't, you may get stranded out there on a sandbar and you may have to wade through a lot of water. And this could happen to you. Best also to go with someone. Don't travel alone out there unless you're really familiar with where you're walking. Some of the birds that you'll see, and believe me, this is just a small sample of what you'll see out there that you can photograph. Excuse me, I'm going to cough here. Clear my throat. This willet is enjoying walking on these oyster shells because the oyster shells hide a lot of little insects and things that they are looking for eating. It's their lunch. This marble godwit is doing the same thing. And with that big, long beak, he's going to be able to poke his beak into those shells and find something that he'd like to eat. Now, these shells, I might add, are not visible when it's high tide. So you miss a lot. You miss where they're feeding and where they're walking and just where they're getting their food. This ruddy turnstone has already found a crab that he's munching on there. And of course, the American oyster catcher, he can really dig in to those shells with that beak. It's pretty strong. And if he needs to, he can even pry open a shell. And sanderlings, I think, are really one of my favorites on the beach. And you'll see them running around at the shore or wherever. And occasionally they'll even take off and fly a little bit. But they run around and it's kind of hard to catch up with them to get their picture. And you'll see this one is trying to find something in that little pile of seaweed. This little guy seemed to want to come and show me what he was eating for breakfast, and it did not look very appetizing. I don't know what it was. This is a Western sandpiper. He's standing on a little bit of a sand pile there, and you can see the water around him. And that's basically what you're going to be walking through when you get out there. These red knots are not there all the time. They're beautiful and they're really nice to see, but they're only there during migrating season when they're going south or north. And many birds migrate through our area and stop at the beaches on Hilton Head. And I guess like the tourists, they like Hilton Head. This is a semi-palmated plover, also at morning early light, and you can see they really show up well, and you get a little bit of the ground and what's under them. This willet in winter plumage spent about a half an hour running back and forth in one of those tide pools, and apparently it's a very good place to find food. I probably took 100 pictures of him, and I can't tell you how many things he picked up to eat. Kind of strange things, some of them. This was a crab that he also found, but he had some things that looked like shrimp and little bugs and all kinds of things. And he didn't seem to mind me watching him. This is a black skimmer, and the skimmer goes along the water with his lower beak in the water, dragging along, catching things to eat, little fish and bugs and whatever. This is an example of a large flock of, this is mostly black skimmers, but you'll see occasionally big flocks of various birds on the beach, and they'll sit in one position, and then all of a sudden, by some magical signal, they all get up and fly. And sometimes they'll fly way down to the other end of the beach, and sometimes they circle around and seem to come right back where they started. And if you look closely at this picture, you'll see that there are other birds, not black skimmers, going right along with them. Some of them flying, some of them running along the beach. I guess it's a fight and flight or some kind of instinct that they have. You'll see reddish egrets also. They do their little dance in the water, just like you see them in other places where they flap their wings and move around to shade the water and look for their food. This tricolored heron found his food and seemed very proud of it because he didn't eat it right away, played with it, walked up and down like he was showing off. They're very entertaining. You'll see snowy egrets. This one's not doing too much, but he was posing. There are also brown pelicans, some flying, some diving in the water, and others just sitting along the shoreline. And sometimes there are even white pelicans. And this little group seemed to be having a conversation out there. But again, all at low tide in way down in the water. And here's an osprey with his catch for the day, leaving. If you're there early in the morning, you may see an eagle sitting out on a sandbar way out in the water. And you can walk pretty far out there, maybe on a different sandbar, and watch him. And he will sit there, he or she will sit there until the tide starts to come back in and their little band of sand that they're sitting on gets a little bit too small, I think, and then they get up and fly away. But don't limit yourself to just walking along the water's edge. The trees on the beach offer a wonderful, diverse selection of birds. This is the view to the right of that path that you came down when we entered the beach. And you'll see a pier down here. And you can walk down there, and you need to watch and listen for the birds in here. But there are many things that you can find there. This eagle was perched up in this tree right near that pier, right at the edge of the trees. And this is a painted bunting. He was there visiting. And this is a Mississippi kite that sat up in this, on that dead tree that I pointed out when we first got to Fish Hall. Again, because they like being up high, they like being able to see what's around them. And he would circle around, get food, come back. And here's he's landing on another part of the tree. So, and you might even see red-shouldered hawks on those dead tree branches. But if you are there in the spring or the summer when the flowers are blooming down by that pier, you may even run into some butterflies, which kind of surprised me the first time that there would be butterflies at the beach. But this is a very small sampling of things that you can see there at Fish Hall. And if you've never been there, I suggest you give it a try. And if you have been there, maybe go back at a different time of day or a different time of the year and see what you find there. It's time to head home. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Gracine. I know Fish Hall Beach is a very popular place to go, particularly to shoot birds. So are there any questions for Gracine?
How do I find myself again here? What did I do?
Very good, Gracie.
Needs to
That
stop
was
sharing.
great, Gracine. That was really nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Need to stop sharing, Gracine, at the top of your screen.
Stop share. Okay, there we are. Yes.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, well, we'll move on to Rich Matheny, who I believe you're going to talk about James Webb Wildlife Management Area.
Hopefully. I guess my my microphone is working today.
It is.
Thank you. Going to see where we are at here. If I get the right thing up. There we go. Okay.
It hasn't come up yet. It's There we go.
There you go. He's up there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hope this works. We've been having trouble with it. Anyway, Sophia asked me to talk about little birds and things like songbirds and sparrows and wrens and finches and warblers and woodpeckers and that kind of thing, and where I like to find them. You can find them anywhere. You find them in your backyard to start with, but they're everywhere. But there are some places that are better than others to find the variety that you want. One of those places is James Webb Wildlife Center, and it's just inside the Hampton County, the Jasper Hampton County line west of Hardyville. So it's a wonderful place. It's a big area, has all kind of different habitats. So I want to show you what is there and not get into too much into about a whole bunch of different photos of birds and exactly where they're at and all of that kind of thing. So I put together a little slideshow, and it runs about 4 minutes, but all of these birds in this slideshow I've taken over the last couple of years at James Webb. And there are a couple birds out there that are very, very interesting. A little bird called Bachman's sparrow, which is an endangered bird. He lives out here. And there's a woodpecker out there called a red-cockaded woodpecker that only lives in forests like you're looking at here at my first screen. You wonder, well, why would I spend all this time looking for these little tiny birds that are very hard to find? They won't sit still for you. They're hard to focus on, but I like them for the same reason that I like blue herons and egrets and eagles and so forth. To me, they're all beautiful. I think they're all exotic. They all have their own great features. And so I like the challenge of these little guys. Plus, I like where they live. Gracine likes fish oil. I love fish oil, but I like James Webb and places like this for the same reason she likes fish oil. It's just my kind of place. Anyway, we're going to try to play this little video. There's several birds in it. I have named each bird that we come to in it. Some birds, like the Bachman sparrow, there may be 2 or 3 pictures of it. The first picture is named, so you'll know what it's what it is. It's a Bachman sparrow, the same way with the woodpeckers. So rather than go through all of these individually, I just put them on a little slideshow, and so try to stay awake. And here we go. Jimmy, let me know if you can hear it. I can hear it.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay, good. It's not a bird.
No.
Okay. If I were coming into a new area and I wanted to go find someplace that had lots of birds, I would probably look for this designation, an IBA. And that is Audubon's International Important Birding Area. So if I see that designation on a wildlife management area, I know there's probably a pretty good place to go. We go to three of them. We go up to Beidler Forest. That's an IBA. You're getting ready to take, I think Mike got a trip going out to Harbor Island. That is an IBA, an important birding area. So those are always good places to go. This is a great place. This IBA is managed just for wildlife. There's swamps, there's big trees, there's all kind of different terrains, which makes it great for birding. A variety of birds, especially. This is the address. This is just for your GPS. If you want to go, we'll have this posted somewhere. If you left here and went down to Hardyville on 46, you go right straight through Hardyville at the light, and you'll be on Route 321, take you to the end of the county and turn left onto State Route 20, Stagecoach Road. Love that road. Love that name. Always look for a cowboy or two, but I've never seen one. Anyway, that'll take you to the entrance to Webb. I don't know any other way to do this other than just kind of start like I'm leading you on a bird tour, a photography tour out there. So that's what we'll do. So, but before we go, a couple of things should know. That's the picture of that non-bird I showed you. That is of course, a diamondback rattlesnake. You don't see very many of these out there, but you could see them out there. But you need to be aware when we go to places like this or Donnelly or Bear or anywhere where we go out that is managed for wildlife. Remember that it's managed for wildlife, it's managed for the creatures, it's not managed for creature comforts. So you need to take insect repellent, you need to watch where you're going. And I would not venture in this area off any main paths if I didn't have a pair of snake boots on. I've only seen one snake while I've been over there the last 5 or 6 years, but I know they're there. So, and of course they got other things that bite like mosquitoes. Another nice thing about that, this is a great place for wildflowers. And I'm not a flower photographer, but these are a few shots that I've taken over the last year or so. And they're all wildflowers. They're everywhere they're there year round of some kind. I just took some last month in that January, some kind of yellow flower. So they're always there. And if there's wildflowers, then there's bees and there's butterflies, and it's just really, really nice. And as I said, what makes this place a really, really cool place for birding is it has so many different habitats. So while you may not find prothonotary warblers all over this area, there is a place that you can find them here. You may not find painted buntings all over this area, but there are places there where you can find them. The same with woodpeckers and so forth. It's just so vast and so many different habitats that it's just a wonderful, wonderful place for that kind of birding. Okay. This is where your tour would start. This is the entrance. It's the reverse picture of what I had on my first slide. This is 1.5 miles road that goes through these oak trees. On both sides of this road are pine trees. And you will notice when you drive down this road, a lot of these pine trees have white bands around them. That signifies that there's probably a cockaded woodpecker either nesting there or has been nesting there in that tree. But going down this road, you want to take your time. It's only 1.5 miles. Sometimes it takes me a long time to get down there because this is where you're going to see the most of your Bachman sparrows. This is an endangered bird. It's endemic to our area. You're going to see bluebirds. You're going to see various kinds of woodpeckers, a cockaded woodpecker, a red-headed woodpecker, red-bellied woodpecker, all of them that are here. You might see quail. There's just a whole lot of stuff down this highway, but you really, really need to take your time. It also has a lot of fox squirrels if you would be interested in doing that. When you get down at the end of this road, you'll run into this building. This is their lodge or the offices for the DNR. There's another building behind this, the same size. They have restrooms here. If you want a map, you can go in there and get a map. There should be some maps right left of where I would be standing taking this picture. Is a kiosk. You need to sign in at that, and there are usually maps there of the area, but this would start the other part of your birding adventure on into the wildlife center. But don't bypass this place. It's got some great birding just walking around in these big yards, and they have some feeders out and birding boxes and stuff. So it's a good place just to kind of walk around. There's a picnic table and area stuff, some place to rest. Once you leave here, you're going to bypass 2 or 3 little small houses. Those homes are where the DNR people that work the wildlife center live. Once you get past those, you'll run into places like this. I took these in January. These are crop fields, and were just being plowed, getting ready to plant. And these crop fields are all over this area, not just these three. These three just happen to be along the road. And they will plant these with corn, sunflowers, various kind of grains, anything and everything for wildlife habitat, for wildlife to eat, primarily birds and quail and dove are all planted for these. Every one of these fields, by the way, will have an electric fence around it. And that means don't go in here. I have seen people in there. This is one of the places that I would not places when the crops are grown and when the corn is ripe and the sunflowers are ripe and the grains are all ripe. Those are feeding plots for small birds, small mammals, rabbits, rats, all kind of little guys. Well, if all those little guys are there eating, there's probably something in there that might want to eat them also. If we could go back to that non-bird that I showed you, they hang out there. So I won't go in there without some snake boots on. There's plenty of paths. You can see there's a road right here on the right. I should have got some of the other roads in it over here. You can walk all the way around these fields. You can drive in front of them. Sometimes you can drive all the way around them. And there are many, many fields like this in James Webb. But this is where the bird action is at when the crops are ripe. But again, it's electric fence. You can crawl under the thing if you want. And I see people do that all the time, but I don't do it. I stay out of there. I can see enough birds from the road. These are the trees that I mentioned to you that had the white bands around them. These are the trees that have been identified as nest trees for the cockaded woodpecker. This is a hot spot for them. This is a place I really like right here. It's just beyond these first set of crop fields that I showed you. I have photographed for the last 2 years cockaded woodpeckers in these last 2 trees down here on the right, and you can just barely see they have white bands around them. And in the spring, when they start feeding, when they start feeding their babies, these are family groups, and there'll be 4 or 5 birds feeding the babies all at the same time. So they're continually flying in there, mom and dad, the brothers and the sisters, and it's a great place to practice that kind of photography. You'll learn some tricks, like they usually come in and you'll hear them, they'll land on a tree relatively close to the one they're going to kind of look around and check things out. And if everything's clear, then they will fly to the other tree to go in the next nest box and feed their babies. That's when they fly off of that first tree to this tree, put your camera on burst and start shooting away and shooting fast. And this is a man-made box. There are a lot of these around there. You can see it's got a PVC pipe in it, and they kind of help the birds out. You'll notice that around this box and some of the other pictures, you noticed a lot of pine tar sap dripping off of the trees and around those nest sites. That's done on purpose. That keeps things like rat snakes and raccoons and all that kind of stuff away from eating their eggs or their babies or themselves. So it's always really sticky and always dirty. The birds never land on anything except the entrance. If you continue on to the end of the road, we're down to the Savannah River backwater. This is there's a boat landing here to the left. It's for canoes and kayaks. This is a great place in the spring for prothonotary warblers and for northern parula. We see them there a lot, and other birds too. Of course, there's over in the swamp, there's always owls over in there. But this is backwater. I've never gotten a really good photograph, but the chimney swifts love to drink water flying back and forth along this dark water. And so that they're fun to watch. There'll be 4 or 5 of them. They're all drinking at the same time, running up and down that river. The next 2 photographs are the same river. They're just to the right. This is same backwater. And you see it's this was taken. I took these in January, so there's no leaves or anything on the trees. But in April, May, I guarantee you there'll be prothonotary warblers here calling to you saying, come and take my picture. Go around just a little bit further, you're going to come to the end of the road. You can't drive any further, but the river's on both sides and you can walk out this road. Actually, I've been told that you can walk all the way to the river, the main drainage of the river. I've never been able to do it. The water's always too high. You can always walk down as far as you can see here, and then the elevation drops down onto another path, and sometimes you can walk a little ways on that, but it's a great place for barred owls, great place for the prothonotary warblers, vireos, all kind of cool birds in there in the summer. Some of the side roads have, you'll see the signs. If you grab your map, you'll see a sign that points to a rookery. This is the boardwalk that goes out to the rookery. It's a cool place to go to. There's always a lot of songbirds around this. I would not, this is the rookery itself. It's off to your right here. I would not drive all the way over there. It's not that far. It's less than an hour, but I wouldn't drive all the way over there to go to a rookery to photograph egrets and herons, because it's hard to photograph and it's easier to get to Pinckney or one of the other places for those kind of birds. But it's pretty out there, and nice water, beautiful lilies, and a lot of small birds too. Also out in that area is what they call a lure pond. Usually find some kind of ducks, some kind of birds out in here. There's an upper pond that's very close. Same thing. Always some kind of birds, some kind of something out here. It's what makes this place really, really cool, is because they have all these different venues where birds can gather, different birds can gather. This cemetery. Found this. There's an old cemetery out there, and so someone has cleaned it up. It's out in the woods, has this nice brick wall around it, and I took a walk on it. And if you like that kind of thing, man, there's some gravestones out in there from 1700s. So I don't know what's going on with it, but I thought it was cool. I'll put the picture in there anyway. This is an overcrop that had already been planted. I took this in January, and it had. They'll probably till all this up until it in, probably have already, and that will be a high nitrogen crop for whatever they're going to plant in there. And you can see all this disturbed ground here. That's not DNR doing that. That's wild hogs doing that, and they were in there rooting around. Looked like the night before I was there. This is on our way back out. You go back out the same place, so you back out the same entrance that you come in, and this is what that habitat looks like. The one I told you about, watching for woodpeckers, birds, quail, all kind of stuff. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful place to go. It's only about an hour. It's less than an hour away from my house. It's just not hard to get to, and it's not crowded. So you're usually out there by yourself with maybe 1 or 2 other people going around somewhere or other, but it's just a wonderful place. And if you want a really good variety of birds, this is the place to go. So thank you for your time, guys. That's my spiel.
Well, thank you, Rich. That was really good. Does anybody have any questions for Rich? Okay. I think.
Rich.
Go ahead.
Rich, when you're out looking for birds, do you hear them first or do you see them? Do you know where to look? What's your secret to actually seeing these things.
All of the above. Yeah, really, all of the above, because you have to, that would be part of a class that I would teach. You gotta, my philosophy on birds is that if I'm going with myself, I'm not with a bunch of group or maybe one or two guys, I'll have something in mind, what I want to do, what bird I want to take a picture of. So I know where to look. I know I know what they eat. I know where they live, and I know what they sound like. And so I know the habitat that they live in. So that's usually when I'm serious out there by myself. That's usually what I that would be my method, I guess would be say, you could say.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Rich, what kind of equipment do you recommend, like a minimum focal length?
300 millimeter,
Okay, thank you.
only because these are small birds.
Mhm.
I use a 300. I got a 2 to 500, and I even use a 1 to 4 converter on it. But you don't have to have, if you're really, really good and want to go out there and have the patience of Job and just sit down, they'll probably come to you at some point in time, but it might take all week. But
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a comment about Fish Hall. Thank you, Gracine. It was a great presentation. This is Freddie. I was out there a couple months ago, and I was able to get a picture close up of the semi-pal mated plover, and it had a tag on it.
Oh, really?
And so X47 is my bird. And I went on to registry and found it was from North Dakota, as the lady from Hilton Head Bird Club, Audubon, told me.
Wow.
And was able to register it, send the picture, and they responded within 3 days to tell me that it was born in 2000, hatched in 2014 in North Dakota at the Snake River. And they hadn't counted since 2019 because of COVID. So they were thrilled to hear it was here and still going. So because it's such an endangered bird, if anyone does get pictures of the plovers out there and they are tagged, please register them, because the researchers in North Dakota are very pleased to know they're here and how many are here.
Wow, that's interesting. Thank you. I'll have to keep watch a little closer.
Maybe you'll see my X47.
Okay.
I want to thank our three speakers tonight for great presentations. I think they've given all of us some ideas as to places that we can go to photograph. And I think some of our particularly our newer club members who may not be familiar with all of these places. One thing I re-emphasize is the safety aspects of it. If you're going to places like Fish Hall Creek, or you're going out to James Webb or any of the wildlife management areas, I would always go with somebody. Don't go by yourself. Wearing snake boots is very appropriate. We have a lot of snakes in the area, and I know Fish Hall Creek too. I think that's where the pluff sand is, where you can sink
Yes.
into it if you're.
Yes, and I really should have, I meant to mention that because you can sink in, and that's why I suggested wearing scuba boots or something that stays on your feet, because you can sink in. And that's one of the reasons for going with someone. You're walking, you're carrying equipment, you're walking through those tide pools, and you can sink in. You have to be very careful.
And
I think, Gracine, wasn't there a lady from the Buford Club that got stuck and had to be rescued?
I don't know where she was. I don't know if she was with a club or she was just out there. And I believe she was by herself. And she went down. She was really sucked into that sand. It was not good.
Wow.
like up to her waist or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she had to be rescued by the fire department, and it took them a long time to get her out.
Yeah.
She was alone.
Fortunately, I have been there alone, I will say that, but I have never had any problems like that. But you have to know where you're walking and be careful.
So how do you know what pluff sand is versus other
Well, if
sand?
you start to walk in it and it gets a little too mushy, get out of it right away.
If
Back
it
up,
starts
huh?
pulling your shoe off, then you know you need to like get out of there.
Yeah,
That's
Most-
would be my recommendation, because I've been there many times to Sue. Definitely be careful.
oh,
Aren't
yeah.
most of those spots that where the mud has come up like that, I'll call it pluff mud, are most of those darker in color than the sand around them?
Okay,
I thought,
Thank you.
maybe not. So,
we'll watch.
yeah, don't step on a dark spot out there. You may end up in a dark spot.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're going to move on to our competition now. And tonight we have a judge, Larry Dunn. And just for introduction, I'll read his bio here. Larry's fascination with photography started over 50 years ago in his father's small darkroom that was tucked underneath the basement stairs. There, Larry's love of black and white prints developed and grew. Larry's work has won many awards at international, national, and local exhibitions, including the Spider Black and White Awards, the Siena International Photo Awards, the Japan Photo International Awards, the Salon Baron in Normandy, and others. His photographs have been published and exhibited in the United States and internationally. Architecture and automobiles are Larry's main photographic passions, which has been like that all his life. Most of Larry's work is in black and white, a throwback to his film days in the darkroom. He's an active member of the Marblehead Arts Association, where he exhibits frequently in group shows and solo shows, and serves on the art committee and board of directors. He is also active with the Swampscott Arts Association, board member, the Greater Lynn Photographic Association, where he is currently the president and director of the association's print competitions, the Salem Arts Association, the Gallery at Lynn Art, the Photographic Society of America, the New England Camera Club Conference, where he was recently honored with their Master NEC Award, and the Marblehead Festival of Arts. Larry has a degree in chemistry from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and spent 30+ years in the retail industry. He had his own business, Revere Automotive Miniatures, a retail business specializing in fine scale models and automotive artwork, for 10 years, and worked as a manager and buyer in the outdoor and ski industries for the remainder. Beside Larry's passion for photography, he and his wife, Judy, love to travel, cycle, kayak, snowshoe, and spend time with their 2 grandchildren. His work can be viewed on his website, which is at www.dunnphotographic.com, and on his Facebook page, Dunn Photographic, and on Instagram at @LDunnPhoto. So with that, I'll let you take it from here. and I think
I'll switch, I'll go on to share my screen so that we can look at the winning photographs so that Larry can comment on them.
okay.
Okay. Well, I want to thank Sophia, Jim, and Rob for inviting me to come down via Zoom and judge for you folks. It was a pleasure to see the wide variety of black and white photographs. I am a very strong supporter of black and white. I do some color here and there when it needs to be, but the vast majority of my work, as Jim said, is black and white. That's my passion. So it was a pleasure to see all this wonderful work and judge for you. So how do you want to work this, Robert?
Bob, you're muted.
So are you there, Bob?
I'm here.
Okay. So you want to start with the novice winners?
Sure. I'll start and announce in each of the categories. Start. We have the honorable mention, Oakady Farm Fresh by Dale Wood.
Okay, here, I think the maker has done a very nice job capturing what appears to be cabbage leaves. The detail from the front to back is very well done. The tonal range on this image is also very well done. There are whites, dark blacks, everything in between. The one suggestion I would have with this photograph, it's very nice the way it is, but I think if there was a tight crop in on the center of the leaves, this photograph would make a very nice, interesting, abstract artistic piece, highlighting the veins and the forms of the leaves. So I think it'd be, jumped up another level by making it an abstract.
Yeah. Okay, excuse me. And then we have Alcohol Ink Tile by Joanna Di Stefano.
Here, I think this is a beautiful artistic representation of somebody doing alcohol ink to form a flower. Once again, tonal range has been very well done in this image. One thing I'm finding a bit distracting, though, are the little dots, excuse me, the white dots around the edge. These can easily be corrected by using the spot healing brush in Photoshop. There's probably a tool in Lightroom that would do it also. Healing tool, I'd use mainly Photoshop, so I'm not that familiar with Lightroom. One thing I might recommend is adding a little bit more contrast, either using the contrast or levels adjustment layer in Photoshop. And I think that would really make this image pop and be outstanding.
Okay, in second place, we have Lattice Shadows, Greg Passantine.
This is a very nice graphic presentation of this lattice work. One thing I would like to see is a little more of the image on the right-hand side, if possible, making it into a horizontal format rather than a square. I think this would be more dynamic, and it would give the viewer more room to enter the image and get into it. The diagonal shadows are very good leading lines, leading the viewer into the image. If the maker was looking for a more abstract artistic look, I would suggest adding more contrast to the image. Once again, I think the added contrast would really make this image pop. It's very well done.
Okay, thank you. And in first place, Old Sheldon by Norm Wells.
This is a beautiful presented image of the scene of this tree in the old structure. I don't know what the building was. It doesn't really matter, but it's very well presented. The bending tree in the foreground frames the image very nicely, the structure. I think the composition and the tonal range here are also very well done. The only thing I would like to see worked on here is the very bright spot down by the base of the tree that's bending. It's drawing my eye to it and a little distracting. I think here using a little burning or darkening would keep the viewer's eye from going over to it and add to the image and keep the viewer more centered on the building itself. Other than that, a very well captured and very well presented image. Well done.
Okay, moving on to intermediate. Honorable mention, we have Nevada Northern number 81 by Doug Scott.
This image has been very well composed and the exposure on it is right on inside this engine house. A very difficult place usually to expose and get everything correct. The sharpness and tonal range of the image are right on. The tracks coming in from the left are very nice leading lines, which bring the viewer into the image to the locomotives. The only suggestion I would have for this image, is to crop in a little bit from the left and remove the stove and the stovepipe. They're a little bright and tend to pull my eye towards them. I don't think they're really needed in the image. They don't really add anything to it. So the image would not lack anything by their being removed from it. Other than that, very well captured and very well presented.
Thank you. And in third place, we have Elegant Egret, Everett Denning.
Beautiful shot of this egret. Nicely posed for you. The composition, the exposure, the tonal range and sharpness are all right on. Nothing there to complain about or pick at all. There's enough room in the image. The egret is looking into the image and there's plenty of room. The detail in the feathers is outstanding, which is very difficult on a white bird in the sunlight. The eye is nice and sharp, which is something that is looked for in all bird photography. The image is very well done.
Okay, thank you. In second place, we have winner Big Sky, Dave.
When I saw this image, I immediately thought of Steinglitz and his equivalent series of clouds. The silhouetted foreground works very well in this image against the dynamic clouds. Even if the foreground were cropped out, not there, the clouds themselves would be a very dynamic and amazing image. Tonal range in the clouds is very well handled. Image is very well presented. Well done.
Okay, and in first place, we have Tea Time, Julia Parrish.
This image is simple and elegant, which best describes it. The composition is very good. The diagonal of the steam coming up from the lower left to the upper right. The tonal range is excellent. Sometimes less is more, and that describes this image right on the button. Not much else to say. I wish it was mine.
Okay, moving on to the advanced group. Honorable mention, Small Tools, Bob Ricketts.
Excuse me. Here, I find a very nice, creative, artistic presentation to relatively mundane subjects. There's been a good use of the rule of odd numbers. You've got 3 tools, 3 basic lines to the figure. There's enough detail to easily recognize what the tools are. There's enough texture to realize that they're up against a wall and not just floating around. The texture in the wall gives them grounded, so they said they do not appear to be floating in negative space. Using high contrast for this image makes the image pop and makes it beautiful.
Okay, in third place, we have Riverside, Tony Square.
Okay. It's like some of my notes didn't come through here. Anyway, I like this image very much. It looks like it's a negative of the actual image, which gives it a very stark industrial feel. I like the point of view that the maker took with it, not to have the stacks being vertical, have them on a diagonal. The 2 diagonal intersecting lines of the stacks and the building itself give the image a dynamic feel. The smoke, the treatment of the smoke coming out of the stacks bring the viewer's eye right to that part of the image.
I'm not hearing Larry. Has he gone?
No, I'm still here. Anybody else not hearing me?
I'm hearing you fine.
Okay.
I hear you.
I hear fine.
Yeah,
With this image, I can see a lot of interpretation concerning climate change and pollution associated with it. The person looking at the window, I think, is an interesting part of the image also.
Did we lose Larry?
No,
No,
Oh, we can
Or
all
did
hear
we
him.
lose me?
We can hear you. You can't hear us evidently.
I think just you lost Larry. I think the rest of us still have him.
yeah,
Okay. In second place, we have Spring
I can't
Fling.
hear anything. So I don't know what's going on.
I don't either. I can hear Larry and I can hear you.
I can hear
can't-
everything there.
We
I-
lost the Bob Camper screen share, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hear everything, but yeah.
I
we
think it's
lost-
Bob who's having the problem.
do we have,
Fixing it.
I think he's rebooting. He's just signing back in, probably, you know.
Somehow my speaker switched to a different microphone. Sorry about that.
you can hear
technology is
it now.
wonderful when it works.
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything, so I didn't know what was going on. So anyway, where are we here?
We need to go back to your share screen.
Yeah, sorry. And I'm also missing a picture there. I thought
Yes.
I put all the pictures in, but I think I'm missing second place.
Missing
So
Spring
what-
Fling.
Yeah, and I don't know what the heck happened to second place, but it's around here, so we'll have to go find it over here. And we'll come up with it as soon as we spot it here. Oh, here it is.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, from Marge Pangione. Yeah.
absolutely. Spring Fling, Mars Pangione, second place.
I found this image to be a lovely artistic presentation. It has depth through the maker's handling of the tonal range, the softness of the forms. The image has a feeling of chaos, yet calm. I think it's very well done.
All right, and now we'll go back to where I wanted to be in the first place. And there we go.
Next, we have Freddie Hoffman.
The title of the image says it all: simplicity. The lighting, the composition, the tonal range make this image a winner. Not much else I can say except I wish it was mine. Very well done.
Quick scored.
Okay, moving on to experts.
Hey, Jody won.
We have, this is Rich Matheny. You're missing that photo too, Val.
Yeah, I don't know what happened here. They were all put in there and they all seem to disappear. So it's this one here.
Yes.
Okay. Computers are wonderful when they work.
Yes.
This is a very good nature story in this image. You've got the two, what appear to be cormorants, talking at the spoonbill. One thing I would recommend here is maybe opening up the shadows a bit on the eyes of the cormorants. As in bird photography, they're a key part of it. You'd like to see the eyes nice and sharp. There's a good deal of detail in the white feathers of the spoonbill, which is nice and hard to get. The cormorants in the branch also, as the cormorants are trying to protect their roost. For nature, you need to keep the two twigs on the left-hand side there. If it wasn't in a nature competition, I might suggest cloning out the upper left-hand twig to remove that distraction.
Okay, third place, Avian Flight, Rich Diazla.
Usually, you like to see birds in flight flying towards you. Here, the maker has very well presented the capture of what I think is an egret with his wings spread, flying away from the viewer. The detail in the white feathers is excellent. Once again, hard to do with a white bird in the sunlight. There is a bit of a halo around the bird's feet, which could possibly be from masking or maybe a little over sharpening. That can easily be corrected, with the clone tool, in post-processing. Other than that, the contrast between the white bird and the dark water and the ripples is very well done. Beautiful shot.
Okay, in second place, we have Gloves by Jody Padush.
Oh, yeah, the gloves.
Here, the diagonals of the arms of the coat bring the viewer right into the gloves. The contrast of the one white glove and the one black glove is what I feel really makes this image. It gives it a dynamic feel to it. Here, the maker has chosen a small f-stop to get a selective focus, to keep the gloves and the arms of the coat in focus, in the back of the coat soft. So you're definitely concentrating on the gloves themselves. Interesting shot, very well done.
Thank you. Next, we have Feather floating down the river.
The details in this feather and the shadow are exquisite. There is detail in the dark tones of the shadow and in the tones of the white are not blown out. Difficult to manage on all ends. Upon close inspection, you can even see that there are subtle tonal variations in the blacks of the water. I would love to see this in print on display where I could really get into it and look at it very closely. I think it is simple and exquisite. Wish it was mine. Very well done.
And that is the presentation of our winners. Congratulations to all the winners this month.
Bob,
Bit of a note.
Bob, whose picture was the feather?
Sophia Shade.
Sophia Shad, yeah.
Just
Thank
to
you.
let you know, I did comment on all of the pictures, and Sophia has a copy of the spreadsheet with my comments on all of the images that were submitted.
Yeah, I have that too. And we'll send that out to everybody so that you can see what comments Larry had on your photograph. And with that, I want to thank Larry for doing the judging tonight. I think you did an excellent job. And I think when people see the spreadsheet with all the comments, you'll be really impressed with what Larry did in looking at our photographs. With that, I think that concludes the meeting. I want to thank all the speakers again and want to thank Larry for judging. And so,
I got one more thing, Jim.
okay.
I want to remind everybody that next month's theme is a critique. It's wildlife excluding vegetation and household pets with ribbons. And our next meeting will be on April the 12th. And as a reminder for everyone that enters into the competition, no names on your photograph.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Once again, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. And I loved seeing the black and white photographs that you folks sent in.
Well,
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Larry. That
Thank you
was
very
really
much,
nice.
Larry. Beautifully done.
Larry. Excellent job.
Have a good night, everybody. Take care and stay well.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too. I might ask, did everybody like what we did tonight in terms of, it was new in terms of having our own, some of our own club members speaking and talking about where they like to photograph. Did you find that helpful or?
I loved it.
Absolutely.
I'm new here.
I thought it was
Absolutely,
great.
Jim.
And I
Great
love new
idea.
here. It was wonderful.
Work well.
Larry, I am from Winthrop, Mass. We're practically neighbors.
I live in Swampscott.
Yes, I know. We played them in football in high school.
My wife is from Revere.
Excellent.
And my daughter-in-law teaches in Winthrop.
Oh, wow, great.
It's a small world.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you for judging, Larry.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, everybody.
I enjoyed having the three speakers tonight.
Great.
I learned a lot.
I think
Especially about Savannah and Fish Hall.
But-
I loved it.
Well, I kind of asked because we've been reluctant to have speakers from our own club before, and
I don't know why.
and so so I wanted to see what the feeling was about that now that we've done that.
I think it was one of the best programs we've ever had, actually.
Is that
I
right?
agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I very much
they work
appreciated
cheap.
it.
Okay.
The
Well,
good
great.
thing about this program was that it offered advice and suggestions for all the people that are in the club that can go ahead and do these things, and that's what makes it really important.
Yes.
And so I think that's what I got out of it was places to go and what to see there.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great. Well,
Thank
I'll
you
pass
for
that.
I've been to all three of those places and still learned a little bit more about what's out
Mhm.
there than what I've seen in the past.
Yeah. Well, I'll pass those comments on to Sophia. Let her know what the general feeling was. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Great meeting.
Thank you.
Great
Good
meeting.
night.
All right. Bye.